Does anybody know the Queen's last name? Yes, that's right, House of Windsor.
That's right.
Most people don't know that though, because it's never talking about that. And that's the reason I left that letter from the U.S. Solicitor General on the desk there, because they know the law. And I told them in no uncertain terms, I sent them one of my notices that I do as part of my procedure, and they sent a letter back addressed as shown there. In my document, in the oath of office document, I tell them that I expect a response from them acknowledging my letter. And in the letter, they say that they don't respond, but they did. See what I'm saying? Anyways, the point is that if you notice how the letter's addressed, and then you notice how it says, "Dear Mr. Winningham," okay? That's exactly how they always do it. And the reason is the family name is never mentioned in common law. They know that, and they never mention it. And so they know you're sovereign. They know you're all sovereign. We're all kings and queens. They know that. But it's up to you to assert it. And if you don't assert it, you lose it. And that's exactly what will happen. Anyways, so the first part of our presentation, I was going to go through land titles. I was hoping that there'd be a few more, and the original people here, because that was one of the reasons that I wanted to go through this. So I'm wondering if maybe I shouldn't go through citizenship first, and we'll cover land titles later, because yeah, I think that's what I'll do.
Well,
Yeah.
My dad doesn't really well, so I'm just interrupting.
Speak into that?
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great.
Sure.
If you can put it around your neck or your pocket, that'd be better.
It's hanging around your neck.
it'll work great for now.
Okay. Is it on?
Yeah,
I don't want to have to worry about turning it off and on.
I think so.
Okay.
Good.
The only difference, I got one here, citizenship Indians. The only difference between that one and the other one is that I've got some stuff out of the Indian Act in there that you might find interesting. Everything, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie The Matrix. Everything is an illusion. Okay, things are not what they appear. And if you haven't seen the movie The Matrix, you ought to look at it. You ought to watch it, because everything is an illusion. In The Matrix, that movie is actually a real good type or symbol of what's going on today, because it that'll go ahead and boot up. It will it goes through and it talks about commerce. There's offer and acceptance and all sorts of stuff in there. You just have to look at it from a commerce point of view. But once you understand all of this stuff and you see the stuff that's going on, you'll see that that's exactly what's happening. And The Matrix is, whoever did that movie, they must have, I bet you they know all about it.
The Wachowski brothers.
I'm sorry?
The Wachowski brothers.
Is that right? Okay, so we're going to start off with the sovereignty one. We're all a nation of kings and queens.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to bring a couple things to your attention. If you do not get a concept, first of all, you got paper in front of you. I mean, if worse comes to worse, you can put it on the back of your paper. Write down your questions, okay? I'm going to give you an opportunity to write your questions, but there's a good chance that I might answer your questions too as I go through my presentation. So please write down your questions, and if you still have a question when it comes up to the question period, you'll get an opportunity to ask it. We have a lot of material to cover. I'm not sure if I can get it all done in the time period, quite frankly. A lot of it depends on your level of understanding as well. So if something comes up and you're really having difficulty with it, concept, okay, I try and show with court cases and everything as much as possible. If you're having difficulty with it, put it in the back of your mind and think about it, okay? Because what'll happen is it'll sink in over time. It took me, the first time this was presented to me was in the early 90s, okay, like 91 or 92. and this guy told me about the two classes of citizens, I told him he was nuts. I said, you're crazy. You're nuts. You don't know what you're talking about. And then he brought out these court cases. And the court cases were talking about it. And so then I figured, whoa, this is just the most fantastic thing there is. And I got to investigate it. And that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And so if you're having trouble with something, if you can't grasp something, don't worry about it, okay? Just put it in the back of your mind and think about it and watch the rest of the presentation and talk to people about it, and it'll come to you. I guarantee you, it'll come to you. It'll take time. It might take time, but it'll come to you. Anyways, these concepts are very abstract. The law is very abstract, okay? You can't touch it. You can't feel it, but yet it affects you in everything you do. You know, the law, you know, there's, if you read Blackstone, okay, I don't know if you know who Blackstone is, but Blackstone was an English jurist who wrote a set of books called Blackstone's Commentaries on the Laws of England. And he said that, first of all, there's a law of nature, okay? And the law of nature says that if you drop this, it will fall. And that's the law of nature. And then he goes through about the different kinds of law, okay? And so, but you can't touch gravity, you can't feel it, but it affects you. And so law is very abstract. And you have to just, sometimes you just have to think about it. And it will come to you over time. Secondly, has anybody watched the movie Pay It Forward? Well, that's the price, okay? I know you had to pay a price to get in the door, but that's a small price compared to what I paid to get this knowledge. And so I'm passing it on to you with the expectation that you'll pay it forward. And if you haven't rented the movie, then you ought to rent it, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Is there a price for your freedom that you're not willing to pay? I have spent literally tens of thousands of dollars doing the procedure that I've done in the States and in Canada. And I've filed lawsuits, numerous lawsuits. I've been to the U.S. Supreme Court twice. Do you know who you are? What we're going to cover today is, what is a sovereign? Who is a sovereign? Where does the sovereignty come from? The rights and duties of sovereignty. You have responsibilities, and you have to accept responsibilities. As a matter of fact, what I do in my lawsuits is when I sign it, I put a paragraph underneath my signature. I say, sovereign living soul, sui juris, all rights reserved. No, I don't put all rights reserved. I put sovereign living soul, holder of the office of the people, and then I put with full liability. Okay? I'm accepting responsibility for my actions. It's only in the matrix that you have limited liability. Okay? So you have to accept responsibility for your actions. At common law, you're responsible. At common law, if you were driving down the road and there was a stop sign, you understand that a stop sign is a yield sign at common law? You understand that? Because at common law, unless someone's injured, there's no harm done. Okay? So you come to a stop sign, you just drive right on through. If you don't run into somebody, then there's nothing they can do about it at common law. If you run into somebody, well then you've damaged their vehicle. Okay? If you kill someone, common law is very severe. Okay? Because if you kill someone, then like if I killed a young man that was married and had kids, well then I'd have to support his wife for the rest of her life, and I'd have to support his kids until they had grown up to the age of majority. And if I didn't, then it's the death penalty. There's no jails at common law. There's no jails. So common law is very severe. It's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I don't know. My attitude is I'd rather have common law than what's going on right now, any day of the week. Anyway, and then we talk about how you can lose your sovereignty and how you can get it back. Actually, you can't lose it, but they view that you lose it, you gave it up. So then it's easy to get back, because you just tell them who you are. You take it back, but you have to do that. You have to take it, okay? There's no negotiation, there's no discussion. I'm taking it, and that's all there is to it. Okay, what is the sovereign? Because remember, we're the king, okay? And for the original people that are here, one of the things that I want you to keep in mind is they call you original people, okay? People is the operative word, okay? As in we the people. And it's also First Nations, okay? Well, There's a thing there's a book called The Law of Nations written by a guy by the name of Chitty, and it's actually 2 books. Anyways, in there it talks about the requirements for a nation, and for a nation you got to have people, you got to have land, and you got to have resources. Okay, as in money. Okay, and anybody, we're going to cover this. Anybody that thinks Canada's a nation is brain dead, because Canada doesn't have land. If you look in their own Interpretation Act, it says that it's the inland waterways and the coastal waterways. So therefore, it's just water. Canada is bankrupt, so it doesn't have any money. And Canada, well, it might have some people on some boats, I suppose, but it doesn't have the other 2 requirements. Anyways, and that's where the power of the original people, they're holding all the trump cards. They really don't know the power of their position. They have a very powerful position. And all they have to do is start asserting it. And, you know, you got these bureaucrats running around doing the same thing to us as they're doing to the original people. They're making legal determinations for you. They're telling you who you are, and you're believing it. And that's our biggest problem, is we don't know who we are. We have to know who we are. And that's hopefully what we'll come out with today, is we'll start to get an idea on who we are. Sovereignty is the right to rule. We're going to go through some court cases. They're going to talk about this stuff. Sovereign can be a king or a queen. Sovereign can be a group of people. Sovereign can be a living soul. U.S. court case. Sovereignty is the right to govern a nation or state. Sovereign is the person or persons in whom that resides. For the very idea that one may be compelled to hold his life or the means of living or any material right essential to the enjoyment of life at the mere will of another seems intolerable in any free country, as where freedom prevails as being the essence of slavery itself. If you understand what they're doing to everybody today, is everybody's a slave. And I'll show you how you're a slave, or at least they're setting up a straw man and making it a slave. And if you don't understand what's going on, then you're the slave. Who are sovereigns? In a monarchy, the king or the queen is the sovereign. In a British common law country, the people are the sovereigns. The words people of the United States and citizens are synonymous terms and mean the same thing. They both describe the political body who, according to our republican institutions, form the sovereignty and who hold the power and conduct the government through their representatives. They are what we familiarly call a sovereign people, and every citizen of one is one of this people, is one of this people and a constituent member of the sovereignty. This is a Canadian case. The sovereign people, through their representatives, have created the court and the board as well as the municipal council and defined the rights and duties of each. This is common law. I can show you Australian court cases to talk about this. The people or sovereign are not bound by general words and statutes restrictive of prerogative right. Now remember that phrase, prerogative right, okay, because we're going to cover it in some Canadian statutes too about the Queen. The people or sovereign are not bound by general words and statutes restrictive of prerogative right, title, or interest unless expressly named. Acts of limitation do not bind the king or the people. The people have been ceded all the rights of the king, the former sovereign. It is a maxim of the common law that when an act is made for the common good to prevent injury, the king should be bound, though not named. But when a statute is general and prerogative right would be divested or taken from the king, he shall not be bound.